Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 11. Yes, 11. So in today's episode, we are talking about two games that came out recently that I have been obsessed with. Life is Strange 2 and Detroit Become Human. So, Life is Strange 2 just came out. Detroit's been out for a while, but I just recently discovered it. So I talk about those two games and some themes I've seen in them. Things like racism, things like empathy, humanity, conformity, standing out from the crowd, a little bit of minority struggles when it comes back to Life is Strange 2, and then, the android revolution in Detroit. So there's a lot of different themes that I picked up in this game. I obviously could not talk about everything, and just some things I just sort of forgot about. Like the idea of conformity, I didn't talk too much about, but I want to delve more into that in another podcast. But we're going to leave it at that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. And I'm trying this new thing where I'm going to upload these in the morning. So let me know if you like these morning podcasts, and I'll keep doing them. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Good morning, you guys. I think I'm actually gonna upload this episode in the morning and see how that goes from there. I don't know. I'm weird about these little things, and I just care about these small details, like the upload date, time, whatever. Anyways, so welcome back to the podcast. It's been a couple weeks. It's been kind of hard filming these episodes. Not that it's hard to actually record an episode. I can just have a topic and just start talking. I have a whole document full of podcast ideas. So the coming up with ideas portion isn't hard. It's just the finding the time and space to do it, because granted, when I film at home, most of the time people are around, and it just kind of makes me uncomfortable recording around people. Kind of going to be talking a little bit about that at the beginning here, but yeah, I don't know. I just think it's kind of weird to film around people, because I know they can hear everything I'm saying. Sometimes they point it out, sometimes they don't. It's a thing. Anyways, if anyone relates to that, there you go. You get it. But, back to normal stuff. So the past couple weeks that you guys haven't that I haven't uploaded a podcast, they've actually been pretty good, which I'm really happy about. It's kind of been going downhill, which I'm gonna get to recently, but the past week, probably 2 weeks ago when you're seeing this podcast, was really good for me, and I don't know why. I was just so happy. I feel I was just so happy for no reason, and I don't understand. Anyways, I just, it was my homecoming, week at my high school, and I didn't go to the homecoming dance, but, they do all these, spirit days, and, a pep rally, and, they have this tailgate right after school, and then, obviously, the homecoming football game. If you're American, you know the drill. And even though I didn't go to the dance for, several reasons, I had so much fun just, especially on the spirit days and, at the tailgate and at the football game. I just had so much fun. I don't even know what it is. I've mentioned earlier in a podcast that, I've never really found people I really deeply connect to in the area that I live. That also kind of contributes to why I didn't go to homecoming. And, so, yeah, but, this tailgate was, a lot of fun, and I feel I didn't, I could genuinely be myself, and, I don't know, I was doing a booth with, at this tailgate with one of my friends, who I don't really know too well, but I really like her as a person, and I kind of want to hang out with her more, and I don't know, I've been really trying to make new friendships lately, and it's just been hard. A friendship is a really, big commitment, and, time, you spend a lot of time into it and invest into it, And it's kind of hard to do it with, like high school and just the craziness of life, and just expectations put on the youth nowadays. But it was a lot of fun, the tailgate, and I just was genuinely happy for like the whole day. Like, I don't even know like why. I was just so genuinely happy, and like I don't know, I haven't felt that way in just such a long time, and it was just really nice to have like a couple days where I was just happy, like for no reason, and like genuinely myself. And it's hard to be that when I'm at a place that I truly like despise coming to. I don't have good school memories, and I'm trying to think of a way I can format a podcast about school, because there's a lot of issues with the American education system. Granted, there are a lot of really good things, and I'm grateful that I do get an education, but there's just a lot of things that have just made me miserable going to school in my experience. And like, I like learning, I just don't like the institution of school, like how it's done. So I want to talk about that another time. But anyways, point is, last 2 weeks I've been really good. I've been really happy, and I'm just so happy about that. Like, I'm happy that I'm happy. So yeah, but like I said a little bit ago, kind of been going downhill lately. It's literally Tuesday. I'm filming this on a Tuesday. I'm hopefully gonna upload this like this Sunday / next Sunday. I don't really know how to like say that, because Sunday is technically the weekend, but it's also the first day of the week. I don't know. I'm recording this on the 9th of October. So there you go. But today, it's literally Tuesday, and like all those like happy emotions are kind of crashing down. I don't know, once again with like friend like issues, and like not really feeling like I connect with anyone. Like, the tailgate was great because I felt like I had like was able to talk one-on-one with someone, and like be able to like people actually like listen and are paying attention. But when people, typically because I don't really have too many friends, people will like invite me into their friend group, and so I'm kind of like the side piece to say the least. Like, okay, someone is in my house. I don't know how I feel about this. But like a family member, like nothing creepy. We're safe, y'all. But yeah, so I was always kind of just like the extra friend, where like the friend I'm friends with in that group, who like brought me into that group, will still talk to their friends, and kind of like my conversation is kind of always like separate because I don't really know them. And then in some situations, like I know or have had relationships with these people, but I don't really like them, so I don't want to engage in this other friend group that my one friend like is a part of, if that makes sense. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Basically, in short, all things short, it's hard to kind of feel a part of the group for me, in my experience in high school, and that has been really just hard just throughout my years in high school, but particularly now, like in what happened today. That's just kind of like how I've been feeling, and it's difficult, and there's really nothing I can like do about it. Like, I'm in my last year of high school. Like, things are going to change after this 1 year. It's going to look really different, and I hope to meet new people and to actually meet like genuine friends in the next step after high school. And I know that's a process, but I don't know. I'm just hoping for something good to happen in that realm. So yeah, friendships is kind of hard, but that's what I've been struggling a lot lately. I talk about this in a lot of my podcasts, but like honestly, that's just the biggest issue that's in my life and has been in my life for the past few years. So that's why I talk about it a lot. And that's also another reason that this leads me to another topic I wanted to talk about. So today, I'm in this group at my school where it's like a mental health awareness like group, where we try to like connect peers to like resources and stuff around them when they're struggling with mental health issues, and like adults and things like that, get them the information and the help that they need. So I'm a part of this organization at my school, and we had like a training. So where we learned about like mental health and like the risk factors and the signs, and then like all those other like things that can help them, etc., etc. I'm not gonna like go through the whole thing. But all in all, it's a like peer mental health support group. So we were doing this one activity where we split up into smaller groups with like a teacher who's like one of the like sponsors for this program, and we talked about like our different like resources we have around us. So like positive friendships and like supportive family, spirituality, like different types of resources and like strengths we can turn to, or that we turn to or should turn to in times of like stress or like anxiety and like tough times. So we split up in a small group and talked about each like different like resource we have. There are like some different categories we talked about, and I really liked like doing, like I love the concept of that, but like whenever I talk about just like emotions in general, it's just hard to be authentic, especially with people I don't really know. And it's not that I didn't trust those people, but it's just like I always like, I don't know, I'm a very emotional person, and I hate crying in front of people. So a lot of the times I just don't really be 100% authentic because I don't want to like end up, one, crying, and then two, a lot of people don't really understand my, I guess, life or my view on things or how I live, because the internet and like YouTube in particular has been such a huge part of my life and how I grew up. A lot of people don't understand that. And not to say like, oh, I'm a famous YouTuber, because I'm not, but like just the whole platform like literally shaped so much of how I grew up, and like other creators and like what I aspire to be, like so much of who I am and like how I think and like the things I turn to often are internet based, because it's just been something that I've always gravitated to, and it's been something always a part of my life basically. So yeah, back to what I'm saying about the groups though, like I just hated how for some answers it'd be like, oh, so how do you deal with like stressful situations? And it's like the teacher in like the group, I really like him. Like the teacher, he was really nice. He's like young and he relates to kids a lot, and you can tell he really cares about his students and stuff. And he really tries to relate to you. And he's really funny, and yeah, he's a great guy. Anyways, but he was talking about how he personally doesn't really like open up his feelings a lot either. And some other people said that as well, but I don't know, like I just can't say that for myself. I don't know, vocalizing something, like knowing something and then vocalizing something are two completely different things, and I really need to get better at telling it to other people. Because with this podcast, it's kind of different, because like I know no one will watch this, or at least like when they do, like I'm not face to face with you, so like it's different, you know? So but talking to people in real life is just hard, especially about like honest and like true things. So that's always great, and it got me really on my nerves that I can't like even be authentic. Like I think one of the things was like, if you're stressed or something about something, like how do you relieve that stress? And you know, some people, and so I said like talk it out, and which is kind of partially true. When I thought about that as like this podcast, I really like talking on this podcast. It definitely makes me feel better. So, you know, and like also like a lot of times YouTube has been something I've always turned to, because I spent a lot of my time in my youth creating. Like literally every day after school, I would think about YouTube and like make YouTube. And it's a little, like, people don't understand that, because, like, if you're not a creator, or if you're not a part of the community, or if you've never, like, interacted with, like, other creators on Twitter and stuff like that, like, there's something about that social interaction that people don't understand, like, normal people. So, yeah, that's something that's kind of been a little bit challenging to deal with. But yeah, that's what's just been something on my mind recently. Kind of mad at myself for not being 100% honest, but I recognize that it's a problem, and I don't really know how to fix it. I don't know. Honestly, like, I know you learn by just doing. But when it's something that's so personal and so hard, like, it's hard just to just say, oh, okay, just do it. Like, everything will be fine. And I need to be better with being more vulnerable with people. But, like, it's hard to trust people when you don't really fully understand really what trust is. Because, I don't know, I've just feel like I've been broken and, like, hurt so many times. It's hard to, like, to be vulnerable and just to put your trust in someone when you've never really experienced what that even feels like or looks like in general. So to put your trust in a randoms is kind of hard. But okay, I'm gonna end this off, like, this ranty bit off on a positive note. So the teacher I was telling you about that were, like, the leaders of the group, they're, like, several small groups, but my leader, he complimented one of my videos I made for my school, and I really appreciate that. I make these, like, weekly videos for my school as their, like, announcements, and it's me and a whole team of people, but he was like, hey, your announcements are kick-ass, and I was like, hey, thanks, teacher, love you. I didn't say love you, but he's a really nice guy, and, like, I don't know, that compliment just meant a lot to me, so maybe I should tell him. I should email him. I'm gonna actually do that. I feel like that'd be nice. Pass it forward. This is what we're learning today. I think I'm actually gonna do that. Okay, I'll update you guys. Hopefully. I don't know. Sometimes I'll say, like, yeah, I'll update you guys. I'll tell you guys. And then I just don't. Like, in the last episode, I said I was gonna include that Trump comment. And I was going to. Like, I wrote it down and everything. But, like, I just didn't feel like it was necessary. So I didn't. So, you know, I just didn't feel like doing the other work. So here we are. All right. But let's go ahead and get into the actual topic of today's podcast. So I wanted to talk about some video games that I have watched recently, because I have been a part of the gaming community for a very long time. I found it through Minecraft, actually through Ethos Lab. Shout out to my boy. None of you probably know who that is. But point is, I found out through gaming Minecraft, like, back in 2011, 2012, through Ethos Lab and, like, the whole Minecraft, like, uproar. And then I recently, like, over the past, like, 4 years recently, have sort of branched off and found some other games that I like. So mainly I do like Minecraft, Sims, both Sims 3 and Sims 4. And then I've been really into storytelling games. Also farm games too, like Stardew Valley. That's the tea, sis. Okay, why did I just say that? But what am I even saying? Okay, so storytelling games. I've been really into them a lot, like, over the past, like, 4 years or so. So, like, Life is Strange, which is the first game that really got me introduced to storytelling games. It's Life is Strange, The Walking Dead. I'm trying to think what else. Like, Undertale. I didn't really even watch Undertale, honestly. I heard it was good, but I never even, like, watched it. Like, I think I started it, but then never finished it. But anyways, point is, storytelling games are really good, and I really love them. So, I wanted to talk specifically about Detroit Become Human, because I recently, by recently I mean like 2-3 weeks ago, finished watching a bunch of Let's Plays for different people's Detroit Become Human playthroughs. The game is so freaking good. First of all, if you've never heard about Detroit Become Human, here's like a brief-ish synopsis. So basically, it's about, essentially it comes down to empathy. It's a game about empathy. It's a story about empathy and a core, like, part to human emotion. That's my chair, by the way. You probably hear this noise a lot of my videos or my podcasts. It's my chair because I have a creaky chair and it has issues. But the game is about empathy, and it's about kind of what connects people together. It's a story about tracing the lives of 3 characters who are androids, which are basically like robots who were assigned to, accomplish a task. There's Connor, who's a detective, and he works for the investigation department. and helps out with like criminal cases. There's Kara, who's like a homemaker taking care of a girl who has an abusive dad. And then you have Marcus, who is the like caretaker of an old man named Carl, who's an artist. He's like retired and he's sick. So we have 3 very different stories, but it all traces their journey to becoming human and sharing empathy. And it's a really solid game. If you are into storytelling games like Telltale, all the great people who make great games, great storytelling games, honestly, Detroit Become Human has probably been my favorite so far. Detroit especially, decisions that you make in Detroit will come bite you in the ass later. Like either like, you know, like every decision that you make matters throughout the game, which is something I really like, because it actually feels like there's so many different options that people can get through playing this game. Detroit is actually like the only storytelling game in a while that I've actually really wanted to see other people's perspectives. Or actually the only storytelling game I've seen that I want to see other people's perspectives, because literally everyone's stories ends so differently. Even if the beginning, if they choose like similar options or have like similar paths, which is even hard to do that because there's literally so many options from beginning to end in the game that can influence like the outcome. And I see something new in every single time I watch it, and it's just incredible. But yeah, so point is, really good. Graphics are amazing. Sound design, incredible. Voice acting is really good. Like, it's just a beautiful game. Beautifully made. Beautiful story. Something that everyone can connect to because it's empathy. It's about becoming human. The storyline is amazing. You might be a little bit slow at the beginning for some people, but I personally really love it. I think it's actually really good paced. That's just my opinion. And, yeah, I will be talking about the game, so, like, if you haven't seen it, I recommend you actually, like, go either play it or go watch someone play it, because I'm going to be talking about it, so there most likely will be spoilers. So, yeah, know that. I want to tell you whose series I actually watched before I, like, get into, like, the dialogue. So, I watched Aya's Cupquakes series. I watched her husband, Mario's series. His channel is RedB15. And then I watched Jacksepticeye's series. I didn't watch his alternate endings. I just watched his original ending. So, yeah, there you go. And I also want to watch Brian Descartes' like, Detroit, like, series. I'm probably just going to watch the first one. Brian Descartes, he is, I think that's how you'd say his last name. I actually have no idea. He is the guy who plays Connor in Detroit Become Human, and he has a Twitch channel where he's played Detroit Become Human with his wife, Amelia. Which Amelia actually plays the Tracys, if you remember from the Eden Club, for those who have seen the game or played the game before. So, yeah, that's who I watched and who I'm planning to watch. So those are some examples if you want to go do that right now. Alright, but we're going to talk about the game. And the first point I really want to just make before I forget, like the first thing, kind of first and foremost that stood out to me, was I really like how games are more like becoming in tune to making political statements or just powerful, impactful, like worldwide statements. And it's not just video games, but it's in art and in media a lot recently. As a collective, like, whole, we have been creating more art and more pieces and more productions that have deeper meanings and meanings larger than ourselves. And I've been really loving that with games lately, especially ones who've been making political statements. This is going to kind of go a little bit off track, but I'm starting to play Life is Strange 2. I actually watched the first episode by Jacksepticeye, but I'm going to actually like buy it and play it myself because I fell in love with the first episode after watching it, so I want to go play like the rest of it like myself. But I did watch the first episode and of Life is Strange 2. Sorry, this is going off track, but there is a really big stigma between racism in the game, especially in the first episode. There's a reference to, like, the main characters in Life is Strange 2 are a Mexican American family, and there's talk about building the wall in the game, one of like the antagonists, and there's also just other like racially charged situations, and that is really impactful for the very first episode of a video game to have such a bold statement like that. The game was actually being developed in 2016, which obviously that's when Donald Trump was elected president, and the 2016 election. Crazy to think that he's been in office for 2 years. That's why I need to vote, you guys. But if you can. But so what was I even saying? I kind of lost my train of thought. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about like racism in the wall and like the 2016 election in the first episode, which is a really profound statement to say in the first episode of like a 5-episode series, especially with the following that Life is Strange has and like the clout, if you will. I just think that is something that is so bold of like companies to do, and I really love how they've been doing that a lot recently. Once again with Nike, with their Colin Kaepernick campaign. Like, I just really appreciate how art and media is really taking the effort to make political statements. Because it's something that's important. It's something that I want to see more. And honestly, for that very reason, I'm really curious to seeing how racism follows Sean and Daniel in Life is Strange 2. And how it impacts them throughout the rest of the series. Because, it's a topic a lot of people can relate to as minorities. And, we make up the majority of this country. And it's an important conversation to be had. And I applaud Life is Strange because we need more people like you guys who are bold and willing enough to make a statement. Because I'm supporting you. We're all here backing you up, as your fans, to make sure that more games come out like this. And more games send more like important and necessary messages. And I love it. So shout out to Life is Strange. I forget who are the developers of Life is Strange. I actually have no idea, but shout out to you guys. Life is Strange 2. I'm gonna go play it. So yeah, that was like a side note, but it also kind of does have to do with Detroit Become Human, because Detroit Become Human has a lot of talk about civil rights, and the main plot of the story is basically an uprising between the human race and the android race, and deciding if androids are humans. There's a lot of racial references too, or not a lot, but a few racial references in Detroit when it comes to when they meet Rose, Kara, and Luther, and well, if you get Luther, and Alice when they go meet Rose. There's a lot of talk about, she mentions a little bit about like race and like how America's always been, like butting heads about like the color of your skin, and like Alice or Kara asks like, why are you helping us? And she's like, my people were always told like Rose is a black woman in the game. And she says like something along the lines of like, when people are always told that, like there's we're always like kind of suppressed in society, but it was just those few like brave souls that like teamed up together and got us out. That's not exactly what she said, but that's basically what I got out of it. Once again, it's been like a couple weeks since I've seen the game, and there's a lot happens in the game, but there's a few other references to that. Also with Marcus at the end, when he's talking to North, this is like at the crossroads where all 3 stories meet. They're on the boat in Jericho, or not Rose, North, sorry. I don't know if I said Rose, I think I did. But Marcus is talking to North and was like, talking about how humans are always have butted heads, you know, whether it's the color of someone's skin, and like, you know, the reason they're not accepting androids is because it's new and different, and people don't try to celebrate like newness and differences and things like that. So I really love that aspect, that it's a civil war in that, like, in that sense. I think it adds a lot of really cool gameplay, a lot of really cool action, but then it's also super symbolic, considering it happened in Detroit. I want to know more about why they chose Detroit. I heard when Jacksepticeye was talking about it, he's a really great, like, YouTuber, honestly. Like, after you get past all the screaming and stuff, like, he's a smart dude, and he, like, says a lot of, like, really cool stuff, and you can see he's passionate about games and, like, the design element, like, the technical elements that go into it, and the story and the deeper meaning. You can see how he's really invested into that, which I love. But he was saying about Detroit, how it used to be a manufacturing, like, big industry there, which I never even thought about when I heard, like, the name Detroit Become Human. I never really thought about why Detroit, but once he mentioned it, I kind of, like, started thinking, and I was like, oh, I guess that does make sense. Maybe the fact that androids or cyber life was started in Detroit was because of, like, they had their history for manufacturing, or, like, you know, the development of cars was huge in Detroit, you know, when cars first came around and people were driving them in the early stages. Detroit was the huge manufacturers of cars then. And yeah, maybe it has something to do with it. Maybe it's something to do with maybe the racial, like, things are happening in Detroit. I mean, I don't know. I don't live in Detroit. My whole impression of Detroit is that I always knew there's a lot of black people there. I know I've always known a lot of, like, black people that are just from Detroit. So, is that a thing? Because of the whole, like, race divide? I don't know. There's a lot of whole different reasons you could have it placed in Detroit. But, yeah, I just kind of thought about that. And then another quick side note, going back to Life is Strange 2, I just thought about this, especially since Life is Strange 2 is making a huge deal, or a huge, like, point out of the 2016 presidential election. Like, the lines in, like, the dialogue in Life is Strange 2, like, it's kind of hard to miss that they're talking about Donald Trump. Like, literally there's a line that's like, you two are like thugs like you, or why we should build that wall. There's no reason you can miss that. But then also there's another, like, more subtle hint at the beginning. I don't know, should I talk about Life is Strange 2? Like, I was just gonna talk about Detroit, but, like, I feel like I need to talk about Life is Strange 2. Okay, I'm gonna talk about Life is Strange 2. Spoilers, just so you know, but kind of not, because this literally happens at the start, but, like, I don't know. Maybe spoilers. There you go. So at the very beginning, once again, it's a Mexican-American family, and this dude, this Mexican-American son, is immediately shot for a suspected murder of this dude, which was not even murder. It was, like, you know, I'm not going to say what it was, but, like, what wasn't, he had nothing to do with it. So I kind of, like, hinted something there, and that could be because I'm a black woman, because I'm a minority, and I see that type of stuff, and, you know, privileged people, white people, don't necessarily have to think about that, or don't necessarily always see that, that a lot of times racial things aren't blatant. They're discreet, and they're alluded throughout media, which is really cool when it comes to storytelling, and they talk about things like racism and things like that. And I saw some articles about Life is Strange 2. I haven't read them yet, but, like, one of them was headlined, racism is the antagonist of Life is Strange 2, things like that. So, yeah, I haven't actually looked into it, but I'm just going to say what I think about it. I've already said that I really like it. I like how they're taking this step, and that's really bold of them as a company, and I applaud that. But then also, some people were saying it's kind of like, right, or I say some people. I watched Jacksepticeye's playthrough, and he said it kind of seems like right on the nose. Like, it's kind of obvious that they're talking about race and stuff like that. But honestly, I think they had to do that so people would start talking. Because once again, the thing at the beginning with the gun, I don't know how many people particularly, I'm gonna say white people, would have picked up that could be possibly race charge that the cop shot in that situation. Because there's no reason that that particular character should have died right there, you know, in real life, in logical circumstances. Not to say that cops aren't under pressure, or like cops, there aren't good cops out there, but a lot of those external factors about yourself that you can't change, unfortunately, do have to do with factors like that. And I don't necessarily know if many of you white people would pick up on that. So I feel like the blatancy of those lines kind of had to emphasize that factor. And also, before even that, the racist line where it's like, you thugs are the reasons why we should build the wall, like there were hints about them being thugs, and like the way people looked at them. Like, there's a lot of different things about, like, there's a lot of different, like, allusions throughout the story that I don't think many people would have picked up on. And if it wasn't for the blatancy, I don't think a lot of white people in particular playing the game would have seen that. Not even white people, people in general, like, would have picked up on that, but particular white people. I'm just saying that from a minority perspective and what I feel like might have happened. So yeah, I also, another quick thing about Life is Strange too, I know I've been talking about this for a long time, but Brody, I really like his character. He's a man who came from wealth and like literally like purposely like lowered his financial status to travel the world and to not be like given anything he wants. Like, he was saying how his people were rich in like money, but then like poor in spirit. And that is something that is so relevant and so true, especially in the place that I live where people have money. So I really love that. I love his character. I love what he stands for. And I'm really sad that he's gone at the end of the first episode. Once again, I said this is kind of gonna have spoilers, so I'm sorry. But yeah, I hope he comes up again in like other episodes, because I really think that's also another important thing to recognize. A lot of times we see rich people can have a lot of money, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have a lot of spirit and a lot of hope and a lot of joy. So, because money cannot buy you happiness, y'all. That's facts. So yeah, I really like that about Life is Strange too. A lot of people were upset that it wasn't even the original Max and Chloe, but the game was still called Life is Strange 2. I am honestly not bugging, because I really like Sean and Daniel. I think they're really cool characters. I love the new atmosphere. I mean, Life is Strange 1, like, there's no way they could have, like, expanded on that story. Like, the way it ended, it was the way it ended. And there's actually a developer video, like, recently. I say recently, it's probably like a month ago at this point, where developers were like, talked about behind the scenes of making Life is Strange 1, or Life is Strange 2, and they're saying like, because there's no way we could have really continued Max and Chloe's story, they are trying to think of what the DNA of Life is Strange was, and they're saying relatable characters, but obviously with a sci-fi twist, because it's Life is Strange. So, you know, we had Max with their time travel powers, and then we have a mysterious power with Daniel in Life is Strange 2. It's not really definite so far, like, yet, but it's definitely, like powers. So, it has a sci-fi twist, and I really love that emphasis, though, on relatable characters. It's honestly kind of like a paradox. It's like an oxymoron. Relatable characters, like, with a sci-fi twist. That's not what they said, but that's how I kind of interpreted it. They did say relatable characters, though, like everyday people. So, yeah, and I love that, because as minorities, a lot of people can relate to this stuff. And maybe not exactly the exact situation that Daniel and Sean are going through, but it is something that a lot of people face, and I think it's important to acknowledge, even if you don't relate to it, because you're, you know, might be privileged in whatever way. Like, it's a thing. So, and we all have privilege, so, like, don't get it twisted, but, like, especially when it comes to minority stuff, a lot of times in my experience, white people seem to feel like, if I don't see it, like, or if I don't experience it, it doesn't exist, you know? And that's not how life works, so a wanted to point that out. But I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick break. I'm gonna get a sip of my water, and we're going to continue this discussion in a little bit. Okay, so I have a list of like things I wrote down. I didn't really write down much. I literally was like, okay, so to talk about Detroit, I can talk about the characters and like different themes. So I'm just gonna go through this list and just talk about some stuff I wrote down. This podcast was originally just supposed to be a commentary about Detroit Become Human, but then Life is Strange is on my mind just because I've seen it recently and like because it came out. Like, anyways, I was planning to do this podcast like a couple weeks ago, but then it didn't happen and Life is Strange 2 came out, so that kind of came out too. But it all works out. It kind of connects though in like this one circular idea. So Detroit Become Human. Let's talk about the characters. So, as I said earlier, the main three characters, Kara, Marcus, and Connor, those are the three stories we really trace. But then we have, like, some other minor characters, so, like, Tom, I think everyone's least favorite character, North, Simon, Josh, who are some other minor characters? Oh, Hank, yeah, I know I was missing some others, and then, of course, you have, like, the people Connor meets on his investigations, like Rupert and, like, Daniel and stuff like that. So, yeah. I really wanted to talk about, though, North, because I was watching another Jacksepticeye video. I know, literally can't, like, stop talking about him. But he has really good content. I really been enjoying it, so, you know. He did a video or a couple videos with Brian T. Cart, who plays Connor in Detroit Become Human, the detective, and they were both saying how, like, a lot of people didn't like North because she was super aggressive, but something I really loved is how when Brian's wife, Amelia, pointed out, well, if you weren't in North's shoes, I feel like you'd be aggressive too, because, once again, if you haven't played the game, spoiler, kind of, not really. North was a sex robot, so, like, she used to be at the Eating Club. She was the one that escaped. That's kind of an Easter egg you can look for when, like, you see Connor in the Eating Club. So, yeah, so if you were, like, literally a sex object, like, actually, like, an object simply used for sex, like, you would be aggressive, too. You know, if that's all you did all day was just, like, sit there and let people just, like, take advantage of you. So, like, you know, I know it's a robot and it's, like, non-consensual, but the whole thing about, like, this whole, like, becoming human thing, like, that is, like, terrible. Like, think of it from a humanistic perspective. Like, you can't, like, I know, how you just gonna sit there and just, like, F a robot and, like, move on with your life. I don't know. Like, if that was you every single day of your life, I feel like you'd be aggressive like North. And I thought that was really interesting because of Amelia, Brian's wife, pointed that out. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's a cool point. Because that honestly is, like, the life, unfortunately, for probably, like, a lot of women who, for whatever reason, you know, engage in, like, sexual activities for money, for support, because, you know, they need to support families, like, whatever reasons, and, you know, you might be aggressive or have, like, a different reaction. Everyone reacts to, like, traumas and things in life differently. So, like, you know, if you were North, you'd probably be angry too. I kind of really liked North and Marcus's relationship, though. I don't know, I watched 3 different Let's Plays, and the 3 people that I watched, Marcus, Ice Cupquake, and then Jacksepticeye tried to keep Marcus peaceful, which Jack was most successful with the peace, in my opinion. And then Red B15, Mario, he kind of started him being peaceful, but then ended up kind of being sort of more aggressive, definitely more aggressive towards the end. And I thought it was interesting because even both ways, I feel like their relationship kind of works. I don't know, some people, like, thought it came out of the middle of nowhere, but I mean, it's a video game. You kind of have to have a love story. Like, that's just kind of how it works. People like love and relationships. That's just how life is. But I thought it was really interesting how kind of opposites attract. So even though North was like super aggressive and stuff, the peace was like kind of like admirable. Like you kind of have, I've always kind of thought of how opposites attract and like how, you know, not in everything, of course, but like in the sort of sense of your approach to things and your like ideals in certain situations. I just thought it was interesting, and I could see like people like that coming together. And you know, this game was more so about like the revolution and becoming human and empathy and all those themes. It was less about the relationship. So I kind of get how people are like, oh, this is kind of like an irrelevant point of the story. But hey, I thought it was kind of cool. I like love, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I enjoy that ushy-gushy stuff. It wasn't really ushy-gushy because they were like robots, so it was like, okay, what are you gonna do, make robo babies? I don't know. Anyways, I'm kind of going on a long tangent here about North. But another theme was with Kara and Alice. I love the idea of motherhood and protection. Kara was like probably my favorite character right off the bat. I loved her story, especially Kara's, where she like runs away from home with the girl she's taking care of, you know, or the daughter of the house she's taking care of because, you know, her abusive dad. And I just connected that story almost immediately. I don't even know why. I kind of know why. I really love children, and just children have always just kind of had a special place in my heart, especially that I have a nephew and everything. I don't know. I just kind of like relate to the idea of like protecting a small child, and like I understand more like the fragility of a child. That probably doesn't make sense. Like fragileness. I'm trying to. What's that tense of the word fragile? I don't know. Like the. You know, the fragileness of the child, the fragility. That sounds really wrong. Really weird. But I just love the idea of just motherhood and protection, because that's also another thing, a very human emotion. Or not a human, but like a human thing. Like you're a mother. Like a motherhood is very much a child, like child-mother connection, you know? And like the fact that an android can like kind of be like a mother to a child is really cool. Even though we find out otherwise at the end, but you know, that was actually that plot twist. I could see that coming because there were hints throughout the previous scenes with like at Ruse's house and like her not eating. That all kind of pointed to that. But yeah, I still did enjoy the idea of motherhood and protection. Kara's stories immediately attracted to me. I love children. They'll always have a special place in my heart. I love my babies. And then another theme was accomplishing a mission. You can probably guess that's Connor. So I didn't really like Connor's story. Honestly, Connor is probably my least favorite at the beginning. Marcus's like became my favorite at the end, definitely. But I think everyone can agree he's like the leader of the friggin' revolution. Yeah, this definitely has spoilers. Hope you guys already know what happens because I'm just spoiling the whole thing. But yeah, the leader of the revolution. You still watch it anyways if you haven't seen Detroit or Life is Strange 2. You still watch it even if you did listen to this. There's so many things that I can't talk about today that you should need to see. But anyways, back to what does he talk about? Oh, okay, I was talking about how I really like Marcus's mission or Marcus's story towards the end, but then I was supposed to be talking about Connor. So that's all I was initially saying. So he's kind of like the theme about accomplishing a mission, being like a program, and like sticking to your program, your like agenda. So I don't really know how I feel about that. I didn't really necessarily like Connor's story. It was different, but I don't really think it really like added much. I mean, I guess it kind of did. It kind of did show the deviancy that is happening with the androids. It gave you more of an inside look with that. And it got more cool as different investigations went on. But I still think I liked Marcus's the best. Like throughout. At the beginning I really liked Kara, and then Kara started slowing down, and then I liked Marcus's. Another thing about Marcus. Okay, Jesse Williams, he is fine. He is good looking. Random side note, but he really is. Anyways, Jesse Williams plays Marcus, by the way. So if that didn't make sense to you. Yeah. Yeah, so there's not really much I can say about Connor. Honestly, Brian, he's pretty attractive too, not gonna lie. So, yeah, I'd still have to watch his, like, Let's Play. He has two, where he's one where he plays, like, as himself, like, as he normally would, and he has second playthrough where he does, like, all the bad Connor, like, or quote-unquote bad Connor, actions, like, where he stays, robot and doesn't turn deviant, which is, like, that's so scary. Oh my god, I could not do that. Like, I get, like, you'd want to see what happens, but, like, on my first time through, I don't know who would just, like, make him say to his program. Like, if you didn't already know what happened, like, I just can't. Like, you can't let your babies die, you know? You just can't. Anyways. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much honestly all I wrote down. My other themes were being taken advantage of, which is, like, North, which I already talked about. And then I have down a reflection of civil rights, which I already talked about earlier too. So I didn't really talk about many themes in Detroit Become Human. I feel like I wanted to talk about more about it, but it's honestly one of the things you need to, like, watch and just, like, experience for the first time. It's been a while since I actually, like, watched through, like, the Let's Plays, so it, like, the memory's not as sharp as it was, you know, and you just feel a lot of things at once. It's a great game. Great game. I've talked to, like, some of my friends about it. Wonderful game. So, like, welly made in just so many different aspects and technical elements and story elements. Like, it's just so rich and worth the money. It's a PS4 game. I think it's like $60, so, but it's worth every penny, in my opinion. Like, you can play it every single time, like, different ways, get so many different outcomes, have your friends play it, like, you're guaranteed to get something completely different, and you talk about it, and it's just so much fun. So, Detroit Become Human, story of the day, buy Detroit Become Human, become Deviant. They should have merch. They probably do already have merch, but, you know, fun to cop up some Detroit merch. Okay. I need to go to bed. It is now 12:20 a.m. Now the next day, it's a Wednesday. So yeah. I'm a blast. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. This morning, I'm gonna try to upload this in the morning, see how I like that schedule better. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it with a friend, leave a comment, leave a rating, send an email at thepassionfruitpodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at passionfruitpod. The O in pod is 0. Hit me up. Yeah, you can also get notifications whenever I upload, like, a new episode goes live. Okay, bye you guys. Thanks for tuning in.